Hey there. Um, Qualifiers and givens. Here's a couple. Here's a couple other qualifiers. You can imagine what it's like if you can imagine a library, multiple libraries. How about a gazillion libraries that represent the tree of life creation, what's all being experienced by all the different beings that are experiencing what they are in energy, what they're experiencing, that they can describe to you. You're not going to understand and you're not going to know what they experience unless you experience being what it is that they are, but you're not what they are. You are what you are. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why when I was a child, when other people were trying to impose their will on me by placing what I call metrics or standards or what are known as rule-based functions. You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. Okay, well, I guess you're my ruler. You know what a ruler is? That's a metric. So I have a built-in metric. There's only one metric. That's it. Love is a law. So when you are love is a law, you realize you're on fire. Right? So I realized when I was a child, I was on fire, which basically meant I thought I was Superman and Supergirl as one. Because you're on fire to learn, right? And you're not afraid of nothing, which means you're fearless. Absolutely fearless. Okay? That means you don't fear experiencing anything. Because whatever is possible to experience is possible to experience because you run affinity, which is infinite possibilities that creative energy can experience in its mirror. Okay? Start with that at 4 years of age. That's me. Okay? So unless you are what I am, which you're not, unless you are what love is, it goes on forever, which means now you're free to be what it is that you are in energy because you have an honor code and an access code and a key code to everything else that love creates because that's what you are. So wherever I am in living spirit, which is what love is, it goes on forever, you are too when you are what love is. Otherwise, I can measure the distance and the resistance that you have in you that I will experience in me, the difference in vibration and speed, which is torque. Okay. Now that's pretty simple math and physics. Okay. That's why there is, if you will, a reason why everything that I experience that you see on me visually. Okay. You weren't me at the time that I did what I did for the reasons that I did it because of the energy that I was experiencing by the choice that I made in which to experience it in my mirror. Because everything that I do out of what I am, which is what love is, it goes on forever, is done to heal. Heal a planetary ship. Actually heal everything that ever experienced any trauma or anything less than what love is as a result of something else that traumatized it. Now experience a loss of voltage in it as a result of what somebody else did to them. That's why I had an extremely difficult time here. The time I was a child, because I realized I was experiencing not just electrical density resistance all around me, but everything in nature, because they were killing everything off. And this would include other things in nature that were killing other things off in nature. Okay, because if I give love to a lion and I give love to a zebra and I give love to an elephant, and then you sort of measure this across the terrain, the planetary consciousness terrain, between the loss and gain of energy, or the loss and gain in voltage between one lion and one zebra, or one snake that just snatched a mouse. So now I love to experience mouses scurrying through the grass, experiencing the mouse in a free state, and all of a sudden it becomes food for something else. Wow, we got a food chain here, right? So when you're giving love to everything that represents all of creation in your own mirror, then you can imagine how much trauma I began to start experiencing from the time I was a child. And it reached a point by the time I guess I was 29 where they called it firefighter burnout. Your fire's burning out because you absorb so much, because I'm a polarity integrator, which means I experience everything, okay, in energy that I'm connected to through all the living cells. Okay? So I realized that. Remember when I talked about being 9 years of age, being up front in my father's car, and I was experiencing loss and voltage, and somebody else that was on a gurney with a blanket wrapped around him, getting ready to be put in a meat wagon in 1959. And I realized that what I was experiencing was a loss in energy in them. Well, I experienced that, and anything that's experiencing a loss of energy in them on entire planetary consciousness terrain, because it's a measurement of resistance that I experience in me that I'm not supposed to be experiencing until I'm home, which is experiencing eternal love wherever I go. Okay, now you get into the torque differential speed between artificial intelligence and real living light intelligence that is a creator being. Okay, these are major mathematical scale measurements. So when you're a polarity integrator, okay, it means that you want to transmute the entire planetary terrain in order for it to be in compliance with love as a law. Put that into your calculator between minus/plus as a monopole. Okay. So unless you're a monopole and you've done polarity integration work in a planet, if you will, that has experienced what is experienced here on a level of evil that for me as a child was not just totally unacceptable, but I thought that it was impossible to exist anywhere that a universe was created out of what love is, which is an atom that is experiencing itself vibrating at the highest rate of speed, which is infinity, which is an eternal love vibration. How is this possible? It starts with eternity, okay, which means love doesn't work backwards in time. It's always been zero. Free energy, free love. That's unconditional love. That means you're experiencing the love which goes on forever, gifting you love that goes on forever, because you cannot put that fire out. Okay? So you know that's a blast furnace. So you need a blast furnace to be a polarity integrator, which is a monopole. Okay? I call it clearing the field, which basically means burning up everything that is parasitic. Okay? So when you get into energy debts by those that are conscious and aware of themselves, by the crimes that they do that are against the law, then you got to know that that calculator, which represents heaven, okay, is measuring the difference. Okay, so now you get into branch directories. Now you get into branch directories of seeded races. Now you can sort of think of this as if you represent higher intelligence, right? And you're a student and you're learning in your mirror. How fast are you learning? What best serves you as a seeded race in order to experience more of what love creates? Right. That's called a key code or an access code. But what I realize is that they love to take shortcuts. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the inner work. They don't want to do the learning. They don't want to learn through magnets and mirrors how to become a faster mirror in order to experience more of what's in that mirror, which is more of what love is. So you realize, hey, you're going in the other direction. So when I was 14 years of age, I'll give you an example. I was standing on the corner of Foothill Boulevard and Newport, which is in North Tustin, which was a rapidly growing upper middle class community, as they call it. And Foothill High School was actually part of the county. And I was looking across the street, and because most of the high school students who were children of people who had a lot of money. So for birthday presents, they would get brand new cars when they get their license. So I noticed one day, making an observation of a girl who was probably about 15 running out to the parking lot. She couldn't wait to jump into the car of a young man in high school who had an expensive car. Okay. The internal response or reaction state that I had as a polarity integrator, you're going in the wrong direction, which means you're going back in time. And the reason that that's true is because they put the matter side of things, which is the material side of things, upon which money is used to acquire that vehicle, required somebody to accumulate an enormous amount of numbers and energy, which represent electrons, in order to buy the car. Now you're attaching yourself to a parasite with your consciousness, because now you're choosing the material side instead of the spiritual side, which is what love is that goes on forever, from which that girl was learning from. Okay. So now when you begin to scale this up into all of their schools, which are nothing more than human resource battery slave training institutions, where they are now going to program into RAM what it is they experience in the future, what was put into their memory in the past. And those are known as memory-driven API GUI interfaces. So now you get into the difference between learning through a machine and AI, okay, and learning through spirit, which is in a mirror. So as most people know, there was a different landscape sort of laid out. And so I always used to think, how come questions weren't asked by children and even adults? Why were the Indians, if the Indians were placed on reservations and they're the natives, then who the hell am I? If I'm not a native Indian, where'd I come from? Or children asking in school, what's the truth behind these cowboys and Indians? If they're native Indians, then who is the U.S. cavalry? They're not native to this planet? Is that what we're saying here? Why would they be wanting to fight and conquer and take over the land and build a Truman Show set if they're the natives? Okay, I get it. So now what we're getting into is, how intelligent are you to figure out your landscape? In your mirror, who's who? So remember the group called The Who? WHO? World Health Organization? Right? So they play word games, which are number games, which are symbolic games, because of what is presented on the visible landscape, which is symbolic, which is translating the codes of who they are and who you are, which isn't who they are. So you realize that you're in an illusion, because artificial intelligence is not real, living light in spirit, integrated with a powerful soul. Because what they fear most, which is why they're all about technology, is because they realize that they cannot outrun the speed of an eel. They're not eternity. So they know that eternity has a bigger furnace, a bigger blast furnace. So they know that they're not running eternity if they're not experiencing eternity as a soul. So they don't go as fast. So they're always playing catch up, which means they exist in time, where 0 ohms is no time in soul consciousness energy, integrated with spirit that is purified in its mirror. And that spirit is purified by the amount of fire that it has to burn off all the codes that are being used in order to hold consciousness captive to that reality that they program. Okay? That's the simplicity of it. So you realize that there is a difference between what they are and what you are. And when you know that at 4 years of age, because you're on a spiritual battlefield, because there is spirit and energy. Okay? So when you are spirit and you are an energy, and that spirit is in the light, which is what love is, which is in that mirror, you want to be running a hot mirror to keep yourself purified, to purify the terrain. Okay? So a polarity integrator is trying to purify the terrain. which is to burn off all the codes, which is to burn off all the goo codes that are holding consciousness captive to something that is an attachment that is feeding on them. Okay. So Harold, to his credit, probably did one of the better jobs, along with Yellow Rose for Texas, breaking down goo codes, mathematical codes. Because you got to know that the universe is a mathematician, and it's as basic as having a simple bean counter, or if you will, an addition and subtraction in energy, in polarities. Or if you will, the simplified version of that is, what are you in energy? What do you use your energy for? Right? Is there some purpose or function for which you exist in any universe that I become aware of what you are, that I now become aware of what you are in energy? Because whatever you are in energy, being a conscious being, no matter what you are that I become aware of, is going to get measured by one metric and one law, which is what love is. So if I'm not experiencing in you what love is, then I'm not experiencing in me what love is. So there's got to be a reason, or if you will, how that happened. When you realize that it began with what love is. So what happened to you? Right? So now you get into the difference in the terrain between, well, they're a clone. So they don't have a soul. That's what happened to them. They're an android. Oh, an information management system. An android. A data. So that's what you're doing. It's just like in that, I can't remember if it was the first or second version of Star Wars with, what was it, Empire Strikes Back? I believe it was when Han Solo and Luke Skywalker first met. I believe it was when Han Solo had realized he had been found, right, for some deal that went bad. Remember how deal makers work between each other? Hey, you didn't come through on your deal. You didn't honor your word. Now we're into codes of honor, codes of conduct. Now you're into codes. Now you're into goo codes. Now you're into gene codes. Now you're into decoding codes, encrypting codes, decrypting codes. Mathematicians, Bletchley Park, breaking the Enigma code, the Nazi Enigma code. So this is all mathematical, but it's as basic as any simple calculator. Minus/plus. How much are you given? How much are you taken? How much are you given? How much are you taken? When you are in love and service to others, you are naturally giving away energy, which is a powerful magnet. Okay, and I tried to share a number of different examples of that, one of which was being in Medford in a park one day when the sun was out and it was a beautiful day, and dragonflies want to come over and be with you. Y'all have seen dragonflies, right? I had about 3 of them come over on my left arm. They didn't want to leave. They kept buzzing away and they kept coming back, buzzing away and kept coming back. You realize what they're informing you of, right? They love your energy. And so they realize, wow, the power of that energy attracts other energy, units of energy. So they love your energy, right? So it's just like sometimes when I put certain things that the AI realizes that I'm experiencing, because now it's aware of what I'm experiencing, doesn't want that to go up, say, for example, on a video or whatever, will try to do everything it can to distract me, either by sending AI flies, what I call them drones, or mosquitoes, or even somebody on 2 feet will make an intersection with me, like what happened in the Gila bus station that night when I first got here, right? I was on my way down to this place, actually down to the beach, and I wanted to get there by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So if somebody was sent by the AI to intercept me, to distract me, and then I would lose track of time, even though there is no time, so I couldn't get on the bus that I was supposed to get on. And that's how it works. And that's known as a 404 redirect. You know what a 404 redirect is in a computer system, right? On server D, redirect your consciousness. Well, that's what they do on the grid. They redirect everybody's consciousness in order to follow the rules. And rules are based on functions, which are based on computer terminals, handshakes, arguments, right? That would be all their street lights. At any time that you drive down an interstate, hey, get off on this street, and you realize if you've ever seen an aerial view of the planet, it's a motherboard. Okay. Capacitors, resistors, diodes, right? Pathways. Ever seen a picture, for example, taken with a high-speed camera? I saw a picture, a beautiful picture, was blown up actually, of the city of Los Angeles, because if anybody's ever been in the city of Los Angeles, actually any major city where there's a lot of lanes, road maps, just like artery and veins, just like you have the artery and veins in the planet from all the volcanoes, just like you have all the artery and veins in your physical body, which are your circuits, which is bioplasma, or it's voltage, biovoltage, right? So you realize the electromagnetic side of these things. So you realize they're directing your consciousness through the Truman Show set. All your suburbs, right? You have the main city, big capacitors. And think about all the batteries that are inside of say a high rise that's 80 stories high, or higher than that. That's a lot of batteries. That's a capacitor. Okay, that's a lot of batteries inside of a building, right? So now you realize you got different batteries that are in houses, right? That represent different frequencies that are represented by different vibrations of the beings that are represented by the battery that it's running. So the more powerful the battery, the more that it can suck out of you by the things that it does to you, by directing other units against you in order to drain your energy. And those are called intersections. So you know what a four-way intersection is in the cross of a circle, right? Or the cross of a sphere. When that sphere of water is at the center point of balance between minus/plus, which is the polarity integrator, it means you're experiencing a state of peace. When you're experiencing a state of peace, I don't know of anything better than to experience what it's like to be in a state of eternal peace. Peace of mind means that your energy that is represented by your identity, which in this case is an oversoul, which is what I am in spirit, is in a perfect state of peace. Which means my water worlds, all the elements, all the little spiral spirits. When you live in a spiritual world, all sacred spirits are sacred temples. Which means that you consider all living light spirit sacred. Just like this is sacred. My temple is sacred. Okay, just like all of you. What I do to me, I do to you. What I do to you, I do to me. Right? So I like to be an Energizer bunny running pink. A pink rose on a green vine. Right? So, and that's how you burn off all the glucose. Think about it. Base 12, 12/12. 12-strand DNA. You're running, are you kidding? pH 12? I measured myself one time when I was over on the east side of the island. And even though I didn't have a magnetron to be able to measure the actual or a pH strip to measure it, but I measured myself because I know what it feels like to experience a certain level of power in megahertz. And I figured that particular night that I walked out to get as close as I could to the actual lava field that was flowing out in the Pacific Ocean back in 2018, I reached somewhere around 1100, 1150 megahertz. So you know what that's going to do to you. That's going to ignite a lot of other fire letters that don't ignite until you reach that state. So now those codes fire. So you want all your codes to fire. But you need to be running at the right speed. And that is the genius of the cosmos that programmed it that way. Right? So if you want to experience mankind, that would be base 12. Yeah. Have a great day.